Hi friends, welcome to what has become my end of the month routine, where I just filmed my monthly favorites, my June favorites video. I was wearing a different top. Took a break, had lunch, and now I'm sitting down to film my June Patron-Exclusive video for all of you, which I'm super in the right frame of mind to do. I just made a couple stories about Carolyn Hirons because she's doing this campaign, Clean Decoded with Space NK. I was like just trying to watch the video, but I have so many thoughts about her. The reason I'm bringing it up is because in a past Patron exclusive video, I think it was when I was showing you what was in my YouTube subscription feed, I had bracketed my thoughts on her and I never got to them, and a bunch of you were really curious. I'll talk about this at the end. I think I'm gonna fold it into an option maybe for next month, like a critical look at social media blogger expertise and personalities at that level, like Carolyn Hirons, and like how their word has become gospel, and what I have sensed as someone that had followed her for many, many years. Julia, actually one of my amazing patrons, gave me the idea to include that as an option. I think it's a really, really good idea. My Instagram DMs are blowing up because I just did those stories about Carolyn. A bunch of you are agreeing so far. So I have felt so alone in being having at all a critical perspective on her, because she's the queen of skincare. Anyway, not the point of this video. Today we're going to talk about, well, actually it was a tie this month between the poll option to talk about the professionalization of blogging, which I would probably get into in this evolution of social media blogger expertise. It's like kind of all related to that. And beauty hype I haven't yet bought into, which is what I wanted to talk about today. I just made the executive decision because this is actually gonna be good for me to get all of this out, because these are questions that have come up to me over the course of like many years since I've been doing my channel. Like, do I use retinols? What's my thought on retinols? How do retinols fit in a skincare routine? What are my thoughts on things like the Foreo or Botox or plastic surgery? All of this stuff. We have kind of a contained list, but we have plenty to talk about. I want to also preface this with saying beauty and our approach to beauty products and treatments, it's not static, it's very individualized, and I feel like we can only talk about ourselves like at a given moment in time. You know, for example, when I've talked about not using retinols in the past, some people have said wait till you like hit your 40s. Is totally true. Maybe I will need more aggressive skincare as I get older. I have always sort of thought, and this is really perhaps not a very popular opinion, that the majority of, and it's not a popular opinion because it means it's largely out of your control, the main things that influence how you look and how you age, how your skin wrinkles, how your skin appears, it's genetic and lifestyle based. And topicals and skincare, I mean, I think they're super, super important, but you can't like overcome your genetics. I have always felt that the focus on skincare and topical treatments and like cosmetic procedures gets the lion's share of attention because it sells products and it fits nicely into our capitalist, you know, social structure. But in my opinion, topicals are really the icing on the cake. Far more important, in my opinion, has always been investing in holistic and preventive lifestyle types of practices like acupuncture, Ayurvedic medicine, nutritional balancing, functional medicine, figuring out your inflammation in the body through dietary allergens, doing proper supplementation and remineralization. I have always thought that that kind of thing that you undertake over a long period of time makes a much bigger difference in your appearance than topicals can. Now that said, we all love products. I love products. I have since I was probably 8 years old. Skincare is also about so much more than just the topical effect that you might get. It's almost like a meditation and practice for a lot of people. It engages all of the senses. Yeah, skincare and beauty and all of that is such an integral part of my life, but I always try and keep that reflective distance from like the industry and trends and really think about them and place them in this broader context of what makes sense over a long period of time, what is sort of tried and true. I always like to have a more minimal approach. That's just what works for me, and my skin seems to respond best when I do very little to it, which I tend to think that a lot of the extras are just the result of, like, you basically will create dependencies in your skin so that you're going to need all that exfoliation. You're going to need those devices if you want to, you basically get your skin in like a dependency cycle. So why don't I back up, and that was like my preamble. I'm gonna talk about retinols, devices, Botox and fillers, and then I kind of wanted to tell you sort of the extent of where I'm at right now for reference, and I'm sure many of you probably already know this. I just turned 36, which is like very crazy to say. I don't have problematic skin. It fluctuates between being normal combination and dry and dehydrated. I have not really dealt with acne since I was in high school, and which was just hormonal acne. My skin is really quite easy. It doesn't do well with a lot of acids or exfoliation. I spend a lot of time investing in preventive sorts of lifestyle things, and also just try and accept that aging is obviously inevitable. If I had time, I was gonna throw on acids, and lots of chemical exfoliation are not a trend I buy into. And also I've never really gotten into K-beauty, mostly because it's very complicated. It's kind of the opposite of less is more. And for a period of time, I had tried the 7 skin method, which is where you layer 7 layers of toner on your face. And I tried it, people raved about it. I think it's very wasteful, actually, for the payoff that you get, but we all experiment, I suppose, right? I kind of wanted to end with this question and just throw it out to you, and maybe we can have some collective discussion about this, but at what point do we consider getting more aggressive with our skincare and beauty treatments? I mean, I'm speaking from my perspective of a 36-year-old woman who hasn't yet felt the need to get Botox anywhere in my face. But when I'm 45, am I going to feel differently? I have no idea. Maybe we'll revisit this topic then. Let's start with retinols, as I feel like that's kind of one of the most common, it's not even, I guess, really a trend, but it is like beauty hype that everybody talks about. I'm actually not sure of the technical difference between a retinol and a retinoid. I am not a chemist, I am not a dermatologist, I am not an esthetician, I am a lay enthusiast, just here to offer, you know, my perspective as a skincare user. My understanding of retinols is that it is a form of vitamin A. What it does is it accelerates your cell turnover. So there's a little bit of misconception from what I can see or have heard about, that people will think of retinols as being exfoliating. So they're not. I learned this from Jordan Samuel. He talked about this recently. They're not technically exfoliating your skin. Exfoliating would mean you're taking skin off to bring fresh skin forward, either through physical or chemical means. What a retinol is doing, and it undergoes like certain metabolic processes in your body, which I think is also important to know. Your body has to convert it, essentially, is my understanding. And I will say that I would like to talk open and candidly here on Patreon about my medical intuitive experience reflections. But when I was consulting with that person, he had said that the cons of the metabolic processes of synthetic vitamin A and retinol form in your body the cons don't outweigh whatever sort of topical pro you would get. It's speeding up your cell turnover so that newer skin cells are coming through sooner than they would on their own. Now, right away, when I learned about this with retinols, it didn't feel right to me, in the sense that there's so much emphasis on forcing in our culture, in Western culture, particularly in American culture. We force, we push, we try and make things happen. We're very willful. It's like the opposite of the Buddhist approach or the Confucian approach, or the Taoist approach, where you're still and you're sort of in the flow of life. I feel like we so often just try and make things happen through our will. I sort of apply that philosophy to thinking about a retinol. You're essentially forcing your skin to reproduce cells faster than it wants to. It also really depends on skin type, right? Because people that are severe acne sufferers or really struggle with things like texture, pigmentation, hyperpigmentation. I don't know, it's a very individual thing, but it could be beneficial then to have your cells replicate faster to create fresh skin to come forward and either heal the acne or lessen the pigmentation that you might be dealing with. But for someone that has like non-problematic skin and you just want like a more youthful look, I'm not really persuaded, I guess, by the idea of forcing my skin to turn over faster. Now that said, we'll get to Botox in a minute, but if it got down to like, you know, when I am, you know, more into my 40s and 50s, would I try retinols before putting needles in my face? Yeah, I think I probably would. I think my approach with all of these things has been like a wait and see. You know, if I'm starting to feel really unhappy with my appearance or getting deep set wrinkles, I would start with the least invasive, least health disrupting approach before moving down more and more aggressive means. Will I ever use retinols? It's probably likely that I will, but not for another 10, 15, maybe even 20 years. I would like to just let my skin, and I know that there are studies that say or have shown that you need to start early when your skin is still young, but I'm skeptical of that too because they say that you should start Botox preventatively too. And to me, there's no sense in injecting Botox into the forehead of a 25-year-old to prevent the wrinkles. No, that's simply to get money from people and get them hooked on these procedures that they're gonna have for a longer duration in their life. Like, I'm not convinced. The last thing I will say on retinols is that people like Tata Harper have had this perspective, and retinol, although Tata Harper might actually now have a retinol in her line, I'm not sure. She used to say and believe that retinol use over time weakens the skin, and there's actually that same argument that has been made against cleansing devices like the Clarisonic and Foreo. You are essentially weakening your skin over time. You're making it dependent on these things, and you're kind of breaking it down, as opposed to focusing on things like antioxidants and things that are really going to kind of build your skin over time. So, you know, there's a lot of different philosophies and perspectives out there. None is really right or wrong, to be honest. I mean, at the end of the day, it is just skincare and beauty, and you're certainly not going to kill yourself by using retinols on your skin. It's really, I think, just a personal preference and the results you see through experimentation. For myself, because of the philosophy behind skin forcing and dependency and all of that, I haven't felt the need to, but I'm sure everybody feels differently about this. Okay, in terms of devices, this to me is a very interesting topic, especially because I recently discovered a new YouTube channel who I will alert you to. You might already know about her. Her name is Katie Sobelman, I think. She has a channel on YouTube called The Organic Esthetician, which I recommend. Now, she is a huge proponent of devices. I don't think that she works for any of the device companies that she shows. I think she really is just a lay enthusiast. She's a trained esthetician, but in particular, she has all of these demo videos of her using a device called the NuFace, which is at-home microcurrent therapy. My understanding of microcurrent is that it is stimulating your skin cells, and it's supposed to have the effect of toning and firming aging skin and kind of aid in facial contouring. She also has demoed something called the ultrasonic spatula, which I think it's like very high vibrations, and again, a lot of it is just supposed to stimulate your cells. She also has shown at-home LED light therapy. I believe the NuFace has an LED attachment that you can use. Red light, I believe, is supposed to help with cell regeneration, which is interesting because when I was doing my medical intuitive work, I went through a period of time where I was doing very short intervals of infrared light therapy at home. You know, a lot of people go just into like those huge infrared saunas for like an hour, which is like way too much. But I was doing like 5 minutes a day with just an infrared light bulb that you would get to heat like little chickens in a chicken coop. I really enjoyed it, and it's supposed to help with like DNA repair and cell regeneration. A lot of this is very sort of alternative health hippie stuff. But I think red light therapy on the face is supposed to have that sort of similar premise. And then I think blue light is supposed to be antibacterial. So people that have a lot of acne, I think, have enjoyed LED light therapy. And then the other set of devices that are very popular are all of the cleansing devices like Clarisonic, and then I think most people now are using the Foreo, which are different. My understanding of the Clarisonic is that it's like a deep cleansing type of action, and that's the one that I always felt like was just gonna start weakening your skin over time. The Foreo, I think, is like ultrasonic vibrations on like a silicone type of brush head. It's just supposed to, I think, like do like deep pore cleansing. Now, I just have to say, before I get into all of that, I have just always felt like I do fine with a double cleanse. Like I've never felt the need to have a cleansing device, ever. Here's the other thing with the devices. I have had facials, in particular Jordan Samuel's facial. He utilized an ultrasonic spatula as well as LED light therapy on my skin. It was a wonderful facial, but he also did tons of massage and like lymphatic drainage, and those are things that I am much more into. If you're gonna tell me that this NuFace microcurrent device, which let's check and see how much it is, I don't actually know. The NuFace mini facial toning device at Sephora is $199. And that's without like all of the attachments. The best facial contouring I have ever had is the slap, tap, and roll facial technique at International Orange in their Infiore facial. I looked like I had had a facelift after that facial experience, and that was just a trained esthetician using her hands to tone my skin. I think I'm suspect of these, like the NuFace, the microcurrent types of things. And again, the organic esthetician has all of these tutorials and demos. Ooh, like I really hesitate to say this because she's absolutely beautiful and she has beautiful skin, but the results that I see her get for how much time she seems to spend on her face with those devices, to me, doesn't seem worth it and how it would fit into my life. I love my skincare routine at night. I really don't have time for a half an hour every night. I'm also like slightly suspect of any kind of metabolic side effect doing those things so regularly would have on the body. I guess I'm always considering not isolating a certain approach or practice like itself. It's affecting your entire body. What would be the effect of having that microcurrent on your face all the time? I mean, when in doubt, I just kind of always default to like my personal gut resonance, and that's gonna differ for everybody. If you have seen I need a drink of water. I'm like my throat's getting dry from like talking so much. If you have seen personally really great results from using something like an at-home microcurrent device, I would love to hear about it. Okay, now let's talk about Botox and fillers. First of all, this is totally a judgment-free zone. There are people that I know and love in the skincare community who do Botox, who have tried it, who do it regularly, who are curious about it, who don't have a knee-jerk negative no reaction to it. Just speaking for myself, I do have a negative no jerk reaction to it for myself. It's very difficult for me personally to rationalize injecting a known neurotoxin into your brain region. Again, it's one of those things where perhaps there is no observable correlation between getting Botox and other health problems or neuro problems. I mean, I haven't really necessarily heard of anything. Okay, several things about Botox. First of all, it's very obvious to me that it's not ideal to put into a healthy body. That said, we all have different cost-benefit trade-offs with this sort of thing. Second, I feel like pretty much every time it looks noticeable to me. It's not even like it almost like changes the appearance and texture of your skin. You look a little bit like wax-like, and I know that I'm sure that it depends so much on the injector. Apparently you always just want to go to a dermatologist if you're going to get Botox. This whole idea of thinking that you need to start when you're in your 20s and prevent deep set wrinkles from coming, I think is so completely insane. I really do. I think it's doing such a disservice to people. I don't know. I mean, and I've heard other compelling arguments about, well, here's what's coming to mind. I have been going through like a little bit of, well, not a little bit, I've been going through some really big life transitions. I sort of touched on one aspect of that in my career change video. But it just suffice to say, it's been an extremely intense time in my life, and I have allowed myself little indulgences that normally I wouldn't have. For example, I feel so happy when I go and get an iced chai at Starbucks. And this is never something I really did with any regularity. I mean, I would go get cappuccinos out and things like that, but for some reason that iced chai has like been my lifeblood through this transitional time. It's like the adult version of a blankie. Like you develop these kind of little palliatives, I guess you could call them. Now, this might not sound directly related to Botox, but the arguments I've heard for Botox or injectable fillers in your face is that, look, cut yourself some slack. If your 11 lines or deep-seated forehead lines or your nasal labial folds really bother you, and there's a way to fix that and you can, why the hell wouldn't you do it? And by that line of reasoning and my Starbucks analogy, I completely agree. If they are really affecting your mental anxiety and your ability to move past it, and there is a solution, I am for that. That's why I was like, it's costing me $4.03 to get an iced chai. You know, like right now I'm doing that, and that's what I need. It's more sugar than I would like to be consuming. I don't love that I don't get to control the quality of milk. I actually, after this, I do want to try and get the chai concentrate to just start making them at home. But there's also something about the experience of actually going and getting a prepared beverage that feels, this sounds so ridiculous, but it feels like I'm taking care of myself because someone has prepared it for me. And it's like a treat. It's the same thing as having a piece of dark chocolate, and maybe I'm just rationalizing spending that money and ingesting that sugar to myself. But my point is essentially that everybody has these particular hang-ups or anxieties or fixations, and if there is a way to help yourself, like I'm so all for that. And that's why I think at the end of the day there should be really no judgment. But I think if people are curious about it, you can always try it and see how you like it. For example, Stephanie Nicole, I think, talks about how a year and a half ago she had however many units put into her forehead, and I don't think she's had it done since. She said she gets under eye filler to help with dark circles, and that's kind of the only cosmetic procedure she does. I think the thing too is that cosmetic fillers can be a very slippery slope. Really, plastic surgery in general seems like a very slippery slope, because if you're constantly looking at yourself from a lens of what can I fix, what can I enhance, you can't really appreciate everything you have. Like, haven't you, I don't mean this to sound at all like a motivational talk either, but I'm just having like a stream of consciousness. Haven't you ever, I'm sure you have, because this happens to me. We're so critical of ourselves in the moment, and then you look back, in my case, it's like I'll watch old videos of myself or I'll see old photos of myself that I remember so vividly in the moment thinking, I hate that photo of me. Like, I look fat, I don't look like how I want to look, and then I see it years later and I'm like, oh my God, I looked so good. Like, you see yourself in a new perspective, more detached. I don't know where I was going with that, except that I think if you're constantly looking for what's wrong with yourself, you can't appreciate, you know, how you are in the moment, or it detracts from that. And we're all so susceptible to it. I mean, women especially we've had such a number done on us, and I think it's a constant struggle in objective distance and reflection, constantly trying to parse out, okay, what's me? What's my immediate like friend and family influences? What are the cultural and social influences that are making me feel this way about myself? I mean, this is like the postmodern capitalist human condition for a woman. I hope that I did due diligence to how I feel about that topic. It's very much in flux for me, and I hope that some of that resonated with you. The extent of what I will do to my skin right now to maybe help you put this all in context, everything that I've just spewed out. Massage. Massage is by far my favorite facial technique. There's someone on Instagram who I suggest you go follow. I learned about her, I think, from my friend Jamie, who's here on Patreon. Britta Beauty, Britta_beauty on Instagram. She's an esthetician in New York City. I would love to go see her for a facial someday, but she's just very, very big on massage and gua sha and lymphatic drainage techniques. And I mean, I really saw the power of high quality facial massage after that Infiore facial at International Orange. I have never seen my face look that sculpted. It lasted for probably 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I mean, the actual sculpted look lasted for a long time, and my skin, I needed to do so little to it after that facial for about a month. They're expensive, but I would rather invest in those sorts of facials quarterly than all of these devices, because it's also the whole experience of having the facial. Nerida Joy and Jordan Samuel are two other estheticians. Both have YouTube channels that I highly recommend. I recommend them to a lot of people in my petit conseils who are looking for esthetician questions that are really meant for an esthetician, like how do I layer retinol and things like that. They're both such incredible sources of knowledge that I really like and respect, but both do actually are big proponents of retinol, Nerida especially, but I just kind of, you know, bracket that and see where she's coming from, but she's a huge proponent of facial massage. She also has me wanting to try the Rejuvi. It's like that antioxidant complex or flavonoid complex that she puts on people. I might pick it up. It's available at Derm Store. And if you watch her videos, she uses it on a lot of her clients and the results look really, really good. Okay, so massage is sort of my number one. My sort of at-home maintenance, beyond just kind of my daily skincare routine, weekly exfoliation and masking, is gua sha and facial rolling with the jade stone. I'll spend, you know, once or twice a week, I've been trying to spend 5 to 8 minutes doing that. And I do feel like it helps just with depuffing and getting things moving. My real areas of concern are between my eyebrows. I do have some 11 lines, and I mean, these don't really bother me yet, my folds here, but they might someday. I don't really have any crow's feet yet, which I'm very thankful for. I think it's because I have very, very oily eyelids, genetically probably. My mom still doesn't really have crow's feet, so I think a lot of that too is like how you smile. Stephanie Nicole has talked about this. Some people hold their smiles more here, whereas some people, when they smile, just the structure, the actual anatomy and like physiology like of your face, your bone structure, which you cannot control, is gonna determine how you age and where your wrinkles are going to come in. I thought that was really interesting because I think I'm gonna be much more prone to nasolabial folds than I am crow's feet, just because of how I smile. My smile is kind of like all right here. Okay, so gua sha and jade rolling I love. And then as far as the actives and skincare that I will use, I do totally believe in the power of antioxidant skincare, but there are so many to choose from, you know, like rosehip seed oil, the maki berry, plum seed oil, and that Le Prunier oil I'm recently interested in. I mean, there's so, well, my battery died. I guess that's what I get for recording super long videos. I just gave it enough juice so that I could wrap this up. I think I was talking about antioxidants in skincare as something I totally believe in and aligns, I guess, with my current ethos and approach. Antioxidant rich skincare, particularly like high antioxidant plant oils, I'm really compelled by. Prickly pear seed oil, argan oil, the skin owl oils I think are very nice. I wish that she had not discontinued those mangosteen drops. Those were just so, so nice. The other ingredient in skincare that's kind of an anti-ager that I can get down with are peptides in skincare. I have been using the Grown Alchemist Peptide Age Repair Eye Serum, and I like that product a lot. So if you're curious, just a quick Google search turns up this little blurb on peptides. When collagen breaks down, short segments of amino acids are formed. These are the tiny proteins and active molecules known as peptides. Peptides in skincare can provide significant anti-aging benefits. Basically an amino acid boost to help build and strengthen collagen. That's my understanding. Not very scientific, very lay person research, but for now I have been comfortable with peptides in skincare and I'm curious, I guess, about them. I do kind of just want to close out, I guess, with offering a question to you, to this incredibly insightful community that I learned so much from. At what point have you or do you think you might consider getting more aggressive with your skincare? Have you noticed the effects of of aging, like the obvious effects of aging, you know, in your skin. When did that happen? What has been your approach to anti-aging or well-aging, or however you feel about this whole aging discussion? I would just really love to hear about your own personal philosophy towards a lot of this stuff, and your different decision points and how you make those decisions, because on the one hand, it's like, I think it can seem sort of frivolous to some people to be like constantly thinking about like how we're aging and skincare and that kind of thing. But for me, this discussion is also a portal into much broader questions about ourself in our social context and our cultural context. I think it's very easy to pigeonhole beauty as being just a totally superficial pursuit, and I have never seen it that way. With that, I just want to close out and say thank you so much for another month of patronage. I hope you'll stick around for next month and hopefully vote on this, you know, critical thinking discussion of social media skincare blogger personalities, kind of tied into the professionalization of blogging. So in some ways that would tackle the Tide video from this month. So I hope that you enjoyed this. Please leave comments. I know sometimes for the comments here on Patreon, it's taken me a while to respond, but I really try and get to those comments at some point. I'm not doing any traveling for the month of July, which, like, hallelujah, I'm so glad to just stay put, focus on L'Amour, focus on my like real job kind of stuff. That's it. It was so amazing to sit here and chat with you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Can't wait to hear from you. I'll talk to you later. Bye.